So this is how 8 years of my life working here ended?
For no reason, it is well.
Hey, taxi, stop, please. Thanks for stopping.
Where to, sir?
Take me to Mutia Livestock Farm at mile 20.
Got it, mile 20.
What happened here? Oh my God, thousands of them. Why has this happened? My flock, my livelihood.
Joseph didn't cry when they fired him, not because it didn't hurt, but because something inside him had already gone quiet before the message even came in. 8 years of his life, reduced to one email. We regret to inform you. No warning, no explanation. Just like that. It was over. But if you think that was the worst thing that happened to him that day, then you haven't heard the full story, because what Joseph met when he got home made losing his job feel like a small problem. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a day where everything goes wrong
For no
at
reason,
once?
it is well.
I'm not talking about small problems. I mean the kind of day where it feels like something is working against you. That was the day Joseph stepped into. He walked home through the noise of Lagos, but everything sounded far away. People were shouting. Ains buses calling for passengers, horns everywhere. But inside his head, there was only one question repeating itself. Why today? There's an African proverb that says, no matter how long the night, the day will surely come. But nobody tells you that sometimes the day comes with darkness. When Joseph got to his compound, he paused at the gate. Something didn't feel right, and he couldn't explain why. It was too quiet. And if you've ever been around animals, you'll understand why that silence was wrong. Joseph was rearing over 3,000 turkeys. A place like that is never quiet. There's always movement, always sound, life. But that day, there was nothing. He opened the gate slowly and stepped in. At first, he thought maybe they were just calm. Then he took a few more steps, and he saw the first one, lying still. He frowned, walked closer, then saw another, and another, and another. Before he knew it, he was surrounded by them. Some were shaking weakly, some were gasping, some were already dead. And that's when it hit him. Something was very wrong.
Why has this happened?
He dropped to his knees and picked one up.
My flock, my livelihood.
It's cold, too cold. No, this can't be happening. But it was, and it didn't stop. That day turned into night, and that night turned into something Joseph would never forget. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. He started making calls, calling veterinarians, calling anyone who could help, buying drugs, trying treatments, spending money like a man trying to hold water in his hands. Because when something is slipping away from you, you don't think clearly. You just try to save it, but nothing worked. Another proverb says, when trouble sleeps, do not wake it. It means some problems are better left alone because once they rise, they don't go back quietly. But Joseph didn't wake trouble.
We'll face it
Trouble
together.
came looking for him.
I'm so tired.
Day 1,
I know.
he
I
lost
love you.
hundreds. Day 2, more. Day 3, the sound was gone completely. No movement, no life, just silence. 3,000 birds. Gone, just like that. Now think about it. Your job is gone. Your business is gone. Your savings, gone. All in less than 1 week. Tell me, what would you call that? Bad luck? Or something else? Joseph stood there that third day looking at everything he had built, now turned into nothing, and for the first time a fear entered his heart. Not normal fear. The kind of fear you feel when you don't understand what is happening to your life, because this didn't feel natural. There was no clear sickness, no warning signs, no explanation that made sense, just loss, sudden, complete, silent. That night, Joseph sat alone in his house. No lights, no food, no energy left to even think. And that's when something changed. He felt it before he understood it. The air in the room became heavy. You know that feeling when you're alone.
Who is there?
But suddenly it doesn't feel like you're alone anymore? That feeling. Joseph lifted his head slowly. Oh, who's there? No answer. But the feeling didn't leave. If anything, it grew stronger. There's another proverb that says, "The child who says his mother will not sleep will also not sleep." It means when you disturb something greater than you also disturb your own peace. But Joseph didn't think he had disturbed anything. At least, not knowingly. You see, Joseph had always heard stories growing up. Stories about something called chi. In Igbo tradition, they say every man has one. A personal spirit, a guide, a protector. Something that walks with you through life, whether you see it or not. But Joseph never believed in those things. To him, they were just stories old people used to explain what they didn't understand. He used to laugh about it. He used to say, "Those things are not real." And for a long time, nothing happened to prove him wrong. In fact, life seemed to favor him. Things worked out for him. Opportunities came easily. He avoided dangers he didn't even see coming. It was almost like something had always been protecting him. But he never questioned it, never acknowledged it, never even noticed it. Until that night. Because as Joseph sat there in the darkness, trying to make sense of everything he had lost, the feeling in the room became stronger, closer, like something was standing right in front of him, watching him. He tried to shake it off, tried to convince himself it was just stress, just fear, just his mind playing tricks on him. But deep down, he knew this was different. Slowly, he laid down, closed his eyes. But sleep didn't come easily. And when it finally did, it didn't feel like sleep. It felt like something else. Joseph opened his eyes, but he couldn't move. His body was heavy, frozen, and that's when he saw it. A figure, standing in the room, not fully clear, but not invisible either, like a shadow that had shape, watching him, silently. And in that moment, Joseph understood something without being told. This was not a dream. This was not imagination. This was real. He tried to speak, but no sound came out, tried to move, but his body refused. All he could do was watch. And then the figure moved closer.
You forgot
and
me.
Spoke, softly, but clearly. You forgot me. Joseph's heart started pounding. Forgot what? Forgot who? But before he could understand, everything went dark. He woke up suddenly, breathing heavily, sweat all over his body. The room was empty, silent, like nothing had happened, but something had, because from that moment, Joseph knew this was not bad luck, this was not coincidence, this was something else, something that had been with him. For a very long time, something he had ignored, something that had finally decided to reveal itself. And the worst part? That was only the beginning. So let me ask you, do you believe every man has a chi? Or do you think Joseph is just losing his mind? Because what happens next in is where the real story begins. Before we begin, this is the story of a man who never believed that there is a chai, a personal spirit that walks with us, guides us, and sometimes works in our favor. To him, it was nothing more than a myth, just stories passed down from the old to the young. But what you are about to hear is based on past events, and it reveals what can happen when something meant to protect you is ignored for too long. If you enjoy deeply rooted African stories, suspenseful narratives, and experiences that blur the line between belief and reality, then subscribe to this channel and join us on this journey. Because some stories are told to entertain, but others are told as a warning. You remember the moment Joseph saw it, that shadow in his room, that voice that said, "You forgot me." What you don't know is that was the last peaceful night he would ever have.
You forgot me.
Because from that moment on, Joseph stopped being alone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a dream so real that when you woke up, you weren't sure if you actually left it? Joseph didn't just have that kind of dream. He got trapped inside it. The night after that first encounter, he tried to stay awake. He told himself it was stress, trauma, his mind reacting to everything he had lost. But deep down, he knew better. There is a proverb that says, "What an elder sees sitting down, a child cannot see even if he climbs a tree." It means
My husband, don't overthink
there are
what's happening.
truths you don't
It's a matter of
understand
time.
until
Everything will
life
be all right.
forces you to
After
see
rain
them.
comes sunshine.
A Joseph
Thank
was
you,
about
Nika.
to
I needed to
understand
hear that.
the hard way. Sleep came slowly that night, heavy, unnatural, like something was pulling him into it. And the moment he closed his eyes, he was no longer in his room. He was standing in a forest, dark, silent, no wind, no insects, no life, just trees stretching endlessly into darkness. Joseph turned slowly. "Hello?" No answer. But then he heard it. Footsteps behind him, slow, measured, not rushing, not hiding, just walking. Joseph's heart started pounding. He turned quickly, nothing. But the footsteps didn't stop. They moved again,
Hello?
this time closer. Then a voice, low, calm, familiar. Joseph.
Joseph?
He froze because he knew that voice. Not from memory, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere older. "You forgot me." The same words, but this time closer. Right behind him. Joseph ran. And that's when the forest changed. The ground became heavy, like something was pulling his legs down. The trees started to close in. The darkness thickened. And the footsteps, they didn't chase him. They followed, steady, certain, like something that already knew. He couldn't escape. There's an African saying, "The lizard that jumps from the high Iroko tree to the ground said he would praise himself if no one else did." It means sometimes survival feels like victory. But Joseph wasn't surviving. He was being hunted. He ran until his chest burned, until his legs felt like they would break. And then he stopped. Because suddenly, he wasn't in the forest anymore. He was back in his house, standing in the same room, but something was wrong. Everything looked older, darker, like the house had been abandoned for years. Joseph turned slowly and saw himself, sitting in the corner, head down, broken, empty, and standing behind that version of him.
What is that?
Was the figure, clearer now, not just a shadow, a presence, tall, still, watching, waiting. Joseph tried to speak, but before he could, the figure looked up, straight at him, and smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a human smile, a knowing smile. And then it moved, faster than anything he had ever seen, straight toward him. Joseph screamed. I had woke up, gasping, heart racing, sweat everywhere. But this time, something was different. He wasn't just scared. He was sure this was real, and it wasn't going to stop. From that night on, Joseph feared sleep, because every time he closed his eyes, it was waiting. Some nights, it stood at a distance, watching him. Other nights, it came closer, speaking, accusing, fighting him, dragging him through places he had never seen, showing him things he didn't understand. And each time he woke up, he felt weaker, like something was taking from him, little by little. There is a proverb that says, when a rat begins to chase a cat, you should know something is wrong, because the natural order had changed, and Joseph's life was no longer under his control. During the day, things didn't get better. They got worse. People started avoiding him. Friends stopped picking his calls. Even when he explained what he was going through, they didn't understand. How could they? How do you explain something you don't even understand yourself? Joseph began to question his sanity. Am I losing my mind? But deep inside, he knew the truth. This was not madness. This was something spiritual, something ancient, something personal. And then one night, it touched him. Not in a dream, not in a vision, in reality. Joseph was lying down, eyes open, afraid to sleep, when he felt it, a hand, cold, heavy on his chest. He froze. His breath stopped. He couldn't move, and slowly, very slowly, he turned his eyes and saw it, standing beside his bed, clearer than ever before, watching him, not angry, not rushed, just are present, like it had always been there, waiting for him to finally see it.
No,
Joseph
please.
tried to scream, but his voice failed him, and then it spoke again, this time louder, stronger, final. You chose to ignore me. Now you will learn. Joseph shut his eyes tightly.
What are you?
Praying,
I
begging,
am your fear.
hoping it would disappear.
Stay back!
But when he opened them
You
again,
cannot escape.
it was still there. And this time, it wasn't just watching, it was angry. And that's when Joseph realized something terrifying. This was not just a spirit. This was something that knew him, something that had been with him, something that had waited, patiently, for years. There is one proverb you should never ignore. He who does not know where the rain began to beat him cannot know where he dried his body. It means, if you don't understand the beginning problem, you will never understand how to fix it. Joseph had reached that point, because now, this thing was no longer visiting him. It was tormenting him, breaking him, taking everything from him, and he didn't even know why. But one thing became clear. He could not run from this. He could not ignore it. And if he didn't find the truth soon, he might not survive what was coming next. So let me ask you, if something like this started happening to you, would you run? Would you pray? Or would you try to understand it? Because in the next episode, Joseph stops running and begins a journey. That will take him farther than he has ever gone, across places most people fear to even speak about. And what he will discover there will change everything. After that night, Joseph knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening to him was no longer something he could handle alone. At first, he tried to keep it to himself. Like most men do, he told himself it would pass, that maybe it was stress, grief, exhaustion. But when the nights became unbearable, and the days even worse, he knew he had to speak. So he started visiting his friends, not all at once, one by one, quietly, carefully, because how do you explain something like this without sounding like you've lost your mind? The first friend he visited listened, but not completely. Joseph told him everything about the job, the animals, the dreams, the figure, the voice that kept saying, "You forgot me." But his friend just shook his head and sighed. "Joseph, you've been through a lot. This is stress. You need rest." Joseph nodded, but deep inside, he knew that wasn't it. Because stress doesn't speak. Stress doesn't stand beside your bed at night. Stress doesn't call your name. There is a proverb that says, when a deaf man sees people running, he runs too. Explanation. Even when people don't understand your problem, they react based on what they think they see. But Joseph wasn't running because others were running. He was running from something only he could see. He left that friend's house, more alone than when he arrived. The second friend didn't even let him finish. Halfway through the story, he laughed. "Joseph, you, afraid of spirits? Since when?" Joseph forced a smile, but inside, something broke, because the one thing worse than fear is not being believed. Days passed. The dreams got worse. The presence grew stronger, and his life continued to fall apart. Then came the day his wife left. No warning, no fight, no explanation that made sense, just fear in her eyes and distance in her voice. Neka, what is it? She didn't look at him directly. "I don't understand what is happening to you anymore. The house doesn't feel right. You don't feel like yourself." Joseph tried to hold her, tried to explain, but she pulled away. "I'm taking the children." And just like that, they were gone. There is an African saying, when the house is on fire, no one asks who lit the match. Explanation. When destruction begins, people focus on escape, not understanding. Joseph stood there that day, watching his family leave, and for the first time, he felt completely empty, not just alone, but abandoned. And still, the nights didn't stop. If anything, they became more violent, more direct, more personal. It no longer just watched him. Now, it fought him, dragged him, spoke to him with anger, with disappointment, with something that felt like betrayal. And that's when Joseph went to his last friend. Not because he expected help, but because he had no one else left. This friend didn't laugh, didn't interrupt, didn't dismiss him. He listened, carefully, quietly, until Joseph finished. Then he leaned forward and said something Joseph would never forget. "Joseph, this is not ordinary." Joseph's heart skipped, because for the first time, someone wasn't denying it. "This is spiritual." Silence filled the room. Joseph swallowed slowly. "So, what do I do?" The friend looked at him for a long moment, then said, "You need to find someone who can see what you cannot see." Joseph frowned. "A pastor." The friend shook his head. "No, a seer." That word sat heavy in the air, because deep down, Joseph knew what it meant. There is a proverb that says, "What you refuse to hear, you will eventually feel." Explanation: when you ignore truth, life will force you to face it. Joseph had ignored too much already, but still, he hesitated. Instead of going to a seer immediately, he chose what felt safer, more familiar. He went to churches, different ones, morning prayers, night vigils, deliverance sessions. Pastors laid hands on him, prayed loudly, commanded whatever was following him to leave. Some said it was a spirit attack. Some said it was enemies. Some said it was generational. Joseph believed them. He wanted to believe them because it felt easier. But nothing changed. Then he went to prayer houses, missionaries, reverends. Each one offered hope. Each one spoke with confidence. So each one said, "It will end," but it didn't. The dreams continued. The presence remained. The voice got louder. There is a saying: a man who is being pursued by a masquerade does not stop to adjust his cap. Explanation? When danger is real, you stop pretending and act.
You choose to forget
Joseph
me?
had reached that
Now
point
you will learn.
because now
No, please.
this thing was no longer waiting. It was pressing him, pushing him, breaking him, and no prayer had stopped it. No fasting had changed it. No pastor had removed it. And that's when he remembered his friend's words. You need a seer. This time, he didn't argue. He didn't delay. He started asking questions, quietly, carefully, because
Excuse
not
me, have you seen
everyone
a woman?
talks about these
They
things
call her the
openly.
seer.
Some people avoided him, others warned him, but one person finally gave him a name, a place, a direction. Dig Arachukwu. Joseph repeated it slowly.
Is the spirit
Arachukwu.
that guides you
The
that
man
made you
nodded.
ask me such questions.
If what is following
Go
you
to
is real,
Arochukwu and you will find
that is
peace.
where you will find answers.
Go with strength. Thank you,
Joseph
sir.
felt something shift inside him. Not relief, not fear. Something deeper, like the beginning of truth. There is one last proverb you need to hear. The path you refuse to take may be the only one that leads you home. Joseph had avoided this path all his life, ignored it, dismissed it. But now, it was the only one left. And whether he was ready or not, that journey was about to begin. Joseph did not tell anyone when he decided to leave. Not his friends, not his neighbors. There was no one left to tell, because by that point, silence had become his only companion. And fear? Fear had become his shadow. Joseph didn't have a choice, because whatever was following him was no longer waiting. It was pushing him, driving him, forcing him forward.
Stay back!
There is an African proverb that says,
What are
when
you?
the wind blows, the fowl
No,
runs
get
against
away
it.
from me!
Not because it wants to, but because it must. Joseph was that fowl, running, not out of courage, but out of necessity. The journey to Arachukwu was not ordinary, not physically, not spiritually, because from the moment Joseph stepped onto that path, he felt it. Eyes watching him, from places he could not see, from spaces that did not feel human. At first, he tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the road, on the destination. But the deeper he went, the quieter the world became. The sounds of normal life disappeared. No cars, no voices, no movement, just presence. And then he reached the first river. The first river. It looked calm, too calm. The water didn't move, didn't ripple, didn't reflect. It just sat there, like something was holding it still. Joseph stepped closer and felt something cold wrap around his legs, not physically, but spiritually, like the river was aware of him. There is a proverb that says, "The river that forgets its source will dry up." But this river had not
I don't
forgotten
come to
anything.
disturb, I'm only
It
passing.
remembered everything. Joseph swallowed, then spoke, softly. "I don't come to disturb. I am only passing." Nothing happened. Then suddenly, the surface of the water shifted, and a shape formed beneath it. Just slightly, enough for a path. Joseph didn't wait. He crossed, without looking back. The second river. This one flowed fast, too fast. The sound alone felt angry, as if the river itself was warning him. Halfway through stepping in, something grabbed his
Please, I am
ankle,
begging you.
hard.
I am only
Joseph
seeking
screamed,
help.
looked down, and saw hands, not human, dark,
If I have wronged you,
long,
Parson,
reaching
let
from
me
beneath
end
the
here.
water, pulling him down. Joseph struggled. "Please, I am begging you. I am only seeking help." The grip tightened. Then, he remembered something his grandmother once said. Spirits do not respect fear. They respect truth. Joseph stopped struggling, closed his eyes, and spoke from his heart. If I have wronged you, forgive me. If I am not meant to pass, then let me end here. Silence. Then slowly, the grip released. The water calmed. Joseph stumbled forward, and escaped, breathing heavily, but alive. The third river. This one was not water. It was fog. Thick, white,
You will
endless.
die here.
Joseph stepped in and immediately lost direction. Left felt like right. Forward felt like backward.
Turn back.
Voices began to whisper, different voices, familiar voices, his wife, his friends, even his own voice. Turn back. You will die here. There is nothing waiting for you. Joseph covered his ears, but the voices didn't stop because they were not outside.
You will die here.
They were
There
inside.
is nothing waiting for you.
There is a proverb that says, a man who listens to every voice in the market will never buy anything. Joseph stood still. He closed his eyes and whispered, I know why I am here.
I know why I am
I will
here.
not turn back.
I will not
The
turn
voices
back.
screamed,
Screams
louder,
and shouts
angrier.
intensifying.
Then suddenly, silence. The fog lifted, and he found himself standing at the edge. He had crossed. The fourth river fire, not burning wildly, but controlled, flowing like water, a river of flame. Joseph stepped back, terrified. How do I pass this? Then a voice echoed, not from the fire, from everywhere. What are you willing to lose? Joseph froze, because he already knew the answer. Everything. He stepped forward, into the fire, and expected pain. But instead, he felt nothing. No burning, no heat, just emptiness. And when he stepped out,
Something felt different, like a part of him had been taken, but he didn't stop. The fifth river. This one was red, dark.
thick, moving slowly. Joseph didn't want to step in, but he had come too far the moment his foot touched it. Visions flooded his mind, every mistake he had made, every time he ignored the signs, every moment he dismissed what he didn't understand. He fell to his knees, screaming. There is a proverb. He who hides his sickness cannot expect to be healed. Joseph cried, not out of fear but out of realization. I was wrong. I ignored you. I didn't listen.
I ignored you.
The river moved faster.
I didn't listen.
Then slowly cleared and allowed him to pass. The sixth river, darkness. Complete darkness. He couldn't see his hands, couldn't see the ground, couldn't see anything. Then something touched his shoulder. Joseph turned quickly. Nothing. Then again. Closer. Breathing. Right beside him. He wanted to run, but he didn't, because now he understood. Whatever you are, I am not afraid anymore. Silence.
I am not afraid anymore.
Then the darkness broke. The seventh river. The final one. The heaviest. The air itself felt alive, watching, judging, waiting. A massive presence stood across the river. Not human, not beast. Something older, stronger. It spoke without moving its mouth. Why should you pass? Joseph fell flat. I seek peace. I seek
Why should you
understanding.
pass?
I seek
I'm
forgiveness.
seeking peace.
Long silence. Then, the presence stepped aside. The path opened. Joseph crossed, slowly, carefully. And when he stepped out, everything changed. The air, the ground, the feeling. He had arrived. Arachukwu, the land of answers, the place where truth does not hide. But what Joseph didn't was this. Crossing the rivers was only the beginning, because what was waiting for him at the oracle was far more terrifying than anything he had faced so far. By the time Joseph reached Arachukwu, he was no longer the same man who left home. Something had changed in him, not just physically, but spiritually, because when a man walks through fear and survives it, he does not return the same. But listen carefully, because what Joseph was about to hear would shake everything he thought he knew about his life. Joseph had reached the place where answers live, but answers are not always comforting. The path to the oracle was quiet, too quiet, not empty, just still, like the land itself was watching him walk. Every step felt heavy, every breath is deliberate. And as he approached the sacred ground, the air changed, thick, ancient, alive. This was not a place you enter casually. This was a place that sees you before you see it. And at the center of it, she sat, the seeress, Nwanyi Ukpabi, the eye that does not sleep. She did not look surprised to see him. She did not ask who he was. She did not even greet him. She just looked at him, as if she had been expecting him. For a very long time, Joseph stood still, not out of respect, but because something inside him refused to move. Then finally, she spoke. Joseph. His heart skipped, because he had not told her his name.
Joseph.
You have come.
You have
Her
come.
voice was calm, but heavy, like every
need
word
help.
carried weight. Joseph swallowed. I need help. She tilted her head slightly and said something that made his blood run cold. You needed help a long time ago. Silence. Joseph felt something tighten in his chest, because deep down, he knew she was right. There is a proverb that says, the ear that refuses to hear will follow the head when it is cut off. Explanation. When you ignore warnings, consequences will force you to listen. Joseph had ignored too much, and now he was paying for it. The seeress closed her eyes briefly, as if listening to something unseen. Then she opened them, and her gaze became sharper. You were not an ordinary child. Joseph frowned slightly. I don't understand. She raised her hand, and he fell silent. From the day you were born, you were marked, protected, guided, chosen. Each word landed like a stone. Joseph's breathing became uneven. What do you mean? She leaned forward slightly. Your chi. The word hung in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Your chi is not weak. It is not ordinary. It is ancient. Joseph's chest tightened. Then why is it destroying me? Her expression did not change, because she had been waiting for that question. Because you forgot it. Silence, deep, uncomfortable. Joseph shook his head slowly. I didn't even believe. Exactly. She cut him off. You did not believe. You did not acknowledge. You did not listen. Her voice grew firmer. Yet it protected you. From childhood. From danger. From enemies you never saw. Joseph's mind began to race. Memories flashed, close calls, strange escapes, unexplainable luck, moments he had dismissed. Those were not coincidences, she said. That was your chi. There is a proverb that says, when a man is dancing and does not know the drummer, he will miss his steps. Explanation. If you don't recognize what guides your life, you will lose your way. Joseph felt something break inside him, because for the first time, things began to make sense, but it only made it more terrifying. Then why now? He asked. Why is it attacking me now? The seeress looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, because it has been patient. Joseph froze. Patient? She nodded slowly. You are 35 years old. A complete cycle. It has waited. For you to recognize it. for you to honor it, for you to align with it. Her voice dropped slightly. But you did not. Joseph's hands began to shake. So now, it wants to kill me. She shook her head.
It wants to correct you.
It wants to correct
correction
you.
Can feel
But
like
correction
destruction.
can feel like destruction. Silence. Joseph couldn't speak, because everything he had lost, well, suddenly had a meaning, a terrible meaning. The job you lost, the animals that died, the fire, your family leaving. She paused. Those were not accidents. Joseph felt his chest tighten. They were signs. Each word hit harder than the last. Signs. Everything he had suffered was not random. It was intentional, directed. There is a proverb that says, "The one who is being called does not hears, but others can hear the call." Joseph closed his eyes, because now he could hear it. All the times he ignored it, all the times he dismissed it, all the times he laughed at it, and now it was no longer asking, it was demanding. "So what do I do?" he whispered, so his voice weaker now. Different. The seeress leaned back, and for the first time, there was something else in her eyes. Not just knowledge, but warning. "You must make peace." Joseph nodded quickly. "Yes, anything. I will do anything." She raised her hand again. "Listen carefully." Because what she said next would determine everything. You must return what was ignored. You must honor what was rejected. You must acknowledge what was denied. Joseph swallowed. "How?" Her voice became firm. "You will perform the rites, and you will do it exactly as instructed. Because in matters like this, mistakes are not forgiven easily." She began to list the items, each one precise, each one deliberate. And as she spoke, Joseph realized something. This was not just a ritual, this was a test, a final chance. "There will be conditions," she said. 7 days. You will remain pure. No anger, no woman, no conflict. If you fail..." She stopped and looked directly into his eyes. "What you are facing now will be nothing compared to what comes next." Joseph's breath caught, because for the first time, he understood the real danger. This was not over, not even close. In fact, it was just beginning. As he stood to leave, the seeress spoke one last time, softly, but clearly. "Joseph," he turned. "You are not being punished. You are being called." Silence. And this time, "You must answer." Joseph nodded slowly, but inside, fear still lived, because knowing the truth is one thing, facing it is another. Episode 5. The 7 Days of Purification. That Joseph left the oracle was something he hadn't felt in a long time. Direction. But it was not peace. It was pressure. Because now he knew the truth. And truth, once revealed, does not let a man remain the same. When Joseph returned to prepare the items for the ritual, nothing felt normal anymore. Even the world around him seemed different. People walked past him like shadows. Sounds felt distant. Even his own thoughts felt heavier, because something inside him now knew. He was being watched, not by people, not by chance, but by something older. Something waiting for him to either obey or fail. Joseph gathered everything the seeress demanded. A white male lamb. 2 white fowls, male and female. White and red wrappers. As the ritual began, the air changed. Heavy, dense, like the world itself was holding its breath. The seeress instructed him clearly. 7 days. No anger, no woman, no conflict, no breaking of inner discipline. If he failed even once, everything would reverse, worse than before. Joseph nodded, but deep inside, he already knew this was going to be harder than anything he had ever done. Day 1. The silence was unbearable. Joseph stayed alone. No distractions, no phone, no visitors, just himself and his thoughts. And in silence, thoughts become loud. That night, he felt it again. The presence, standing at the edge of his awareness, not speaking, not moving, just waiting. Joseph closed his eyes tightly and whispered, "I am trying." The presence did not respond, but it did not leave either. Day 2. Joseph woke up angry, not as someone, at everything, at life, at loss, at injustice, but he remembered the instruction. No anger. He sat down, breathing heavily, trying to calm himself. But anger is like fire. It does not disappear easily. That night, the dreams returned. The cheese stood before him again, but this time, it did not speak. It only stared. And Joseph felt something terrifying. Disappointment. There is a proverb that says, "When a child washes his hands clean, he eats with elders." But Joseph felt like a child who was still dirty. Day 3. The struggle began to deepen. Joseph started questioning everything. What if this is all in my head? What if I'm just broken? But then, something happened. He saw a shadow pass his window. Slow, deliberate. He rushed outside. Nothing. But when he returned inside, the candles had shifted position. No wind, no explanation, just change. Joseph froze, because now he knew something was responding. Day 4, the temptation came. Strong, unexpected. A familiar voice called him, not spiritual this time, human, his old life, his past. Come out. Just one drink. Just one moment. Joseph almost broke. Almost. But he remembered the warning. No conflict. He closed his eyes and refused. That night, the dream changed. The chi did not speak. It walked away, slowly, silently, and Joseph felt it.
What is this?
Distance.
This can't be me.
Day 5. Joseph began to feel weak.
I can't live like
Not
this.
physically, but
Why me?
spiritually. Like something was being removed from him piece by piece. He looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. There is a saying, when the tree begins to dry from the root, even its leaves begin to fear the wind. Joseph was that tree. Day 6. The silence broke, violently. That night, the presence returned, but not quietly, not gently, angrily. The room grew cold, the air thickened.
You are
Joseph
failing
fell
me.
to his knees without understanding
I am
why.
trying. You
And
ignored
then
me for years.
The voice returned. But this time it was different. Louder, stronger, closer. You are failing me. Joseph shook his head. No, I am trying. But the voice continued. You ignored me for years. And now you want peace, Joseph cried. Not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. I don't understand what you want from me. Silence. Then, a warning. If you break tomorrow, you will lose everything you have left. Day 7. The final day. Joseph did not sleep. Why, he sat still, afraid to move, afraid to think, afraid to breathe wrong, because he knew this was the most important day of his life. If he failed now, there would be no recovery, no second chance, no mercy. Morning came slowly, too slowly, and with it, a strange calm, not peace, not joy, something heavier, like the world was waiting for judgment. Joseph stepped outside. The air felt different, clean, but watching. And then, his phone rang. He hesitated, picked it up. It was his former workplace. Joseph froze. Hello? The voice on the other end spoke calmly, but what they said next made his heart stop. And that is where this episode ends, because what Joseph is about to hear will confirm whether the 7 days were successful or whether everything he suffered was only the beginning. Joseph stood still as the phone call ended. For a moment, he didn't move, not because he didn't hear what was said, but because part of him refused to believe it. Because after everything he had lost, after the fire, after the silence, after the dreams, something had finally come back. But Joseph had learned one thing the hard way. In matters of spirit, not every return is a blessing. There is a proverb that says, when a man is called back to his village, he must first ask what is waiting for him there. The voice on the phone had said it clearly. He had been called back, reinstated, promoted. Everything he lost was being restored. But Joseph didn't feel restored. He felt watched, like something invisible had just shifted position, like something had completed a cycle and was now observing the result. Because what Joseph did not understand yet was this. In spiritual matters, restoration and consequence often arrive together. One does not come alone.
I have to get this sorted today.
The days that followed
No
were
more delays.
strange. Very strange.
Excuse me, I'm here for my
At
claim.
first, everything looked like healing. His phone rang more often. His old workplace sent official letters. Even money began to return in ways he couldn't explain. Insurance payouts arrived, settlements cleared, opportunities reopened.
This is it.
It looked
I
like life
knew
was
it would
finally
work out.
correcting itself.
Today's my lucky
But
day.
Joseph noticed
Let's go
something no one else
celebrate.
could see. The feeling of peace never stayed. Every time good news arrived, a strange heaviness followed, like something invisible was standing behind the blessing, watching, waiting. There is a saying, when the hunter returns with meat, he must still check if the forest is truly silent. Joseph's forest was not silent. It was pretending. One evening, Joseph received another shock. His wife, Naka, called. Her voice was different this time, not angry, not distant, afraid. Joseph, I don't understand what happened to me. We left. I don't even know why we left. Her silence filled the line. Then she continued. The children keep asking for you. I think we should come back. Joseph closed his eyes. Because this was what he prayed for. This was what he lost everything for. But instead of joy, a deep fear rose in him, because now he realized something terrifying. Everything was returning at once, too perfectly, too fast, too clean, and in his heart. He remembered the seeress's warning.
Is everything okay?
If you fail,
Yes,
everything
Joseph,
will
we're
reverse.
Oh, thank
But
God.
what if
Come here.
success was
We love
also
you, Joseph.
dangerous?
I love you all so much.
Joseph thought the worst had already happened to him. Losing his job, losing his animals, watching his life collapse piece by piece, then surviving the
Vice.
rituals, surviving the
Cleanse
rivers,
us with this blood.
surviving the return of everything he once lost. But he was wrong. Because the worst thing about spiritual matters is not the suffering. It is the understanding that comes after it. At first, life looked normal again. Too normal. His job was restored, his money returned, his family came back, even his name in the system was clean again. People congratulated him. They called him lucky. Some even said he had survived a strange, bad season. But Joseph did not feel lucky, because every night, the silence returned. And in that silence, something was watching him again. Not aggressively, not violently, but patiently, like something waiting for a final decision. Then the dreams returned. But this time, they were not confusing. They were clear. Joseph would stand in the same place every night, a vast space, empty, and in front of him, The presence, but now it no longer hid. It no longer frightened him with shadows. It stood fully revealed, and it spoke, not in anger, but in finality.
You have been restored.
You have been restored.
Yes, everything
Joseph
is
would
back.
always answer,
That is
yes,
not the question.
everything is back. But the presence would respond, that is not the question. And every night, the same silence followed. One night, Joseph finally asked,
me?
What do you want from me? And for
Recognition.
the first time,
I don't
the
understand.
presence answered clearly. Recognition. Silence. Joseph frowned. I don't understand. And the presence stepped closer. You were given protection. You were given favor. You were given survival. And you called it luck. Joseph felt something collapse inside him, because suddenly, every moment of his life began to replay in his mind. The close accidents he escaped, the dangers that missed him, the opportunities that found him without effort, and all the times he ignored it, dismissed it, laughed at it. There is a proverb that says, the child who refuses to greet his helper will one day greet hardship instead. Joseph fell to his knees in the dream. I didn't know. The presence did not soften. I was always there. Joseph whispered, then why now? And what came next changed everything. The presence spoke. Because now you understand. Silence. Then it continued. Understanding is the price of awareness. Joseph trembled. So what happens now? And for the first time, the presence turned away, not leaving, but deciding. You must choose. Joseph looked up quickly. Choose what? And the answer came like a final judgment, to belong or to be free. Joseph woke up suddenly, sweating, heart racing. But this time, something was different. The air in his room felt heavier than usual, and for the first time in a long time, he was not alone. Not in feeling, not in fear, in reality. That morning, Joseph did something unexpected. He returned to the seeress, but this time, she was already waiting, as if she had seen everything before he arrived. Joseph didn't sit. He just spoke. I don't want anything anymore. The seeress watched him quietly. And Joseph continued, I just want peace. Silence filled the space. Then she said something soft, but heavy. Peace is not what is offered. Joseph frowned. Then what is? And she answered, acceptance. Joseph's voice dropped. Acceptance of what? And the seeress replied, that you were never ordinary. That sentence hit him harder than anything before, because now he understood. This was not a story of suffering, not a story of loss, not even a story of restoration. It was a story of identity. There is a proverb that says, until the drum beats your name, you will dance to every sound. Joseph sat down slowly. For the first time, he stopped resisting, stopped questioning, stopped running, and in that silence, something shifted. Not outside, inside. That night, our Joseph had the final dream. But it was not a nightmare. It was not a warning, it was a meeting. And this time, there was no fear, only truth. The presence stood before him again, but now it looked calm, complete, and it spoke. You have seen everything. Joseph
You have
nodded
seen everything.
slowly. Yes.
Yes.
Then
You
it
understand
asked,
now?
Do you understand now?
I understand that I was
Long
never
silence.
alone. Then live
Then
accordingly.
Joseph answered, I understand that I was never alone. Silence again. Then the presence said, then live accordingly. And for the first time, it disappeared. Not violently, not suddenly, but peacefully. Joseph woke up, and this time, the silence was different. Not empty, not heavy, just quiet. Like something had finally settled. Days passed. Joseph's life stabilized, not in miracle ways, not in sudden wealth, but in balance.
Okay,
He no
let's see the
longer
results.
ignored signs. He no longer
Yes,
dismissed
the numbers are up.
intuition. He no longer lived carelessly.
This is going to be great.
Because now he understood something deeper.
To an unforgettable
Every
evening.
life has
To
a
us.
rhythm. And when you refuse to listen,
I'm so glad we
life
did this.
will force
Me
you to
too.
hear it.
This is perfect.
And that was the end of Joseph's
To
journey.
us, my love.
Not
To
because
forever.
everything became perfect, but because everything finally
You look so
made
beautiful
sense.
tonight.
And you, my handsome husband.
So let me ask you
Is
one
everything
last time.
okay?
yes, Joseph, we're
If your
fine.
life was speaking
Oh,
to you
thank God,
through
come here.
signs, would you
love you,
listen?
Joseph.
Or would
I
you
love you
call
all
it
so much.
coincidence until it becomes consequence? If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to this channel for more powerful African stories, spiritual mysteries, and cinematic narrations that blur the line between reality and belief. Because some stories are not just told, they are experienced. And the next one might be even more disturbing than this. Thank you for watching.